Hi, everyone. You're in for a real treat today, especially if you're a entrepreneur, a spiritual healer, someone in the space where you're either a seasoned business owner, but stuck maybe, or if you're new to the game and you're kind of feeling the strain, if you're feeling frustrated, especially with social media. I My feelings on social media are have always been public and well known. Yes, I've kind of returned to Meta just because I realize that there's a lot of voices on that platform, and they do deserve to hear your message. They deserve to hear the message that you have to provide. But today, I had the privilege of speaking with Adam Torres, who is wow. Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but all of that to say that he sh totally and completely shifted my perspective on how you are able to stand out in the market, especially when it can seem so friggin' saturated all the time, between YouTube, between Instagram, Facebook, the whole thing, X, don't even get me started. And so it can seem really bleak. And I didn't realize that I had some limiting beliefs around even the podcasting concept. And so that was really enlightening for me. And so if you are someone who is a spiritual entrepreneur, a healer, someone who is even considering writing a book, doing anything at all where you want to get your voice, your message out to the world, no matter what it happens to be, please give this episode a listen because Adam just really drops a truth bomb and some amazing information about how to get your message out there in the most effective way possible. So I hope you find this episode as mind-blowing as I did. And yeah, I'll see you on the flip side. Enjoy. Welcome to The Sovereign Shift, the podcast for women ready to reclaim their voice, their nervous system, and their power in a world that demands they stay small. I'm Chelsea Eden Dubois, founder of The Sovereign Shift, creator of Woo Breathwork, and your guide on this breath-led journey into sovereignty of self, system, and spirit. Each episode, I sit down with powerful women, thought leaders, everyday revolutionaries, and allied voices to explore the real, raw, and radical path to embodied sovereignty. We talk about stress, burnout, addiction, motherhood, balance, sexuality, leadership, and breath-led spiritual awakening. And yes, we go deep into all things woo, the divine feminine, altered states of consciousness, intuition, ritual, and the parts of womanhood that have been exiled or dismissed as too much by patriarchal systems. Here, truth is medicine, breath is power, and your sovereignty, non-negotiable. Let's begin. Okay, so welcome back to The Sovereign Shift. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Adam Torres, who's host of the Mission Matters series of shows and ranked in the top 2.5 out of over almost 3.5 million podcasts globally. As co-founder of Mission Matters, a media branding and book publishing agency, Adam is dedicated to amplifying the voices of entrepreneurs, entertainers, executives, and experts. An international speaker and author of multiple books on business and investing, his advice is featured regularly in major media outlets such as Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Fox Business, and CVS, just to name a few. No big deal. Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in. So I'm curious, who were you before you were Adam Torres?
Still Adam, just with less podcast episodes. No.
Yeah.
I started my career in finance. I worked in finance almost 14 years and really thought that that was going to be what I did for the rest of my life. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, had great clients, and One day I put out this book and it's a little self-published deal that it just started to do a little bit better than maybe a little self-published book would, and it's kind of corny looking now and it's fine and it's okay. We didn't have the right graphic design taste at the time, but it was called Money Matters. But even from doing a little self-published book, things came from it. And I found myself on speaking tours as far away as China. All these opportunities started coming to me, and it was it really just changed my life. So I would say the big pivot or the changing point for me would be when I published my first book. Things started to change.
So what brought you to the point where you were just like, okay, I'm gonna write a book about this. Like what inspired you to
Oh
actually
no,
take that leap?
I'm not that cool or fancy. It was the complete opposite. It was like, I don't want to write a book. That's okay. I came from the finance world. So just to be clear, so in my mind, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I didn't understand the power of story. I didn't understand. I love books. I love to read them. I love consuming content, but I never really understood the power or the reason why somebody would create it. So one of the reason I wrote my first book is because my mentor, Christopher Kai, he says, Adam, you got to write a book because I had my own firm. So I had a financial firm where I manage money at the time. I haven't been licensed in over 9 years though for anybody listening. So don't contact me for that. I don't do that. But been 9 years or so. But Chris tells me, hey Adam, you got to write a book, and I'm like, I don't want to write a book. Broke people write books. Why do I want to write a book? Like I'm gonna make a couple of dollars on a book. It didn't make any sense to me. But begrudgingly, I did it, even though I didn't want to do it, and I didn't actually sit down and write. I spoke my book, so I just literally I was on trains and I was traveling, doing some other things, and I just started talking into this little app on my phone. I had it then edited, compiled, put together. Obviously, the graphic design was not professionally done when you look at the cover, but then I put it out. And I like to share that story and I like to be really transparent and authentic with it because there's people right out there right now that are listening that are sitting on the fence that are like, I don't want to write a book or it's too much work or it's this or it's that or I'm not ready or like all these other things. And I'm like, even if I mean, fast forward now, we've published over 400 authors and that's how our company started on the marketing side is book publishing, actually, not podcasting. But it all did start from not wanting to write a book and just doing it. So for those that are on the fence about doing it, I'm just telling you right now, don't use a company like ours. No self promotion here. Just do it yourself, whatever you got to do, but get that book out.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful advice. What do you think resonated with people so much about your book?
Um, well, first thing is, I had a proper context for what to do with a book. So, do I think that it resonated with everybody that had it in their possession? Absolutely not. Why? Because I used it as my calling card. It was a business card. If I met with you, you were getting a book, period. So, remember, I was still a financial advisor. Wasn't in media, no podcasts, no websites, nothing else. So, I just used it as a business card. And so, I gave out probably 3,000 books the first year. Like just gave them out. So I think the first thing that resonated was the fact that people had them. Most business books, and I don't say this laughing, I say this more so because I wish people would understand this. Most business books, they'll print like 250 copies total. So people spend all this time, all this money, all this effort. They invest their effort, but then nobody gets to see it. So I tell people, like, give the book away. Just give it away everywhere you go. Give it away. Like, give it away. Make that connection with people and then build from there. So that's one side of it. First off, they had the opportunity. So I had numbers. So I had the opportunity for it to resonate. And then the other part is where I do feel that some people got, genuine value from it was I was just myself. I was just telling myself my story. The same reason why you create a podcast, why I create a podcast. Some people are going to want to hear your voice and what you're talking about. Some are going to want to hear my voice and what I'm talking about. Some people aren't going to like my voice. Some aren't going to like yours. It doesn't matter. You just go out there and you try to spread love. You try to spread great content, and I feel like good things can come from that.
So what new opportunities did that book call in for you that that kind of have, led you to this point now?
Well, the first thing that happened, and this is the shocker, Chelsea, and this is where I feel that the market for helping people tell their stories through books or other things is just completely untapped. There's just so much room, so much so even based off of the lack of, let's just say, graphic design or even professionalism, like I didn't know what I was doing in my first book, but the people around me started asking me to help them publish books. And so I did. So then we created this whole series. It's like think of it like the chicken soup for your soul kind of thing, except it's just business leaders. And now it's under the title Mission Matters. But we've published over 400 authors in that series. And so what happened from that is kind of almost like this flywheel of creating content. And from there, the demand to be on the show started to grow. And then, in the beginning, we had to beg people to come on the show, right? Because there's just like, I mean, we didn't like, hey, I got a podcast. You want to be on it? Who are you? Nobody. What have you done? Nothing. What are you like? I'll manage your money, but I didn't really have a story. We didn't have anything. Website. My first, just for context, when I did my first 300 plus episodes, I'd recorded on my cell phone. And that probably couldn't even be called a show. That was called, tape recordings with Adam. I was just talking to people. They weren't edited, nothing. And I share that because if you're sitting out there listening to this and you're still thinking about, I don't have the right mic or I don't have this or that, I did it on my cell phone. Come on. And I didn't even have like AirPods. I don't even know if they had those back then. I had the wires, I had the free
Yeah.
ones that came with it. Like that's what I was rocking. And there was no intro. I didn't even know you're supposed to have an intro. I just started
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah. So many people have limiting beliefs in their head about
Mm,
why they can't get started with something like that. And
yeah.
did you have any point where that became an issue for you? It seems like you were
I
just sort of
think
naturally moving past the fear.
I won't use the naturally part. I would say that I was blessed with being naive. Remember, I didn't know anything about media at all. I mean, zero. And I started in finance when I was 16, working in the IRA department of Raymond James and Company. So if you think about that, like I'm completely sheltered. I don't even consume content. I'm reading like financial reports. I'm reading like the stock market. That's it. That's all I consumed was, data on money because that was my job. And that was my obsession from a pretty young age and working in that field. So I was blessed with being naive, like having zero idea what I was doing, zero idea on the concept of people like looking at the content or listening to it. My mind was more focused on like how much per piece of content it was costing me to put the content out. And I had it down, I think at the lowest point was probably like, I think it was like 45 cents per piece of content. So we built the infrastructure on the back end to be able to produce and distribute a tremendous amount of content, which in retrospect, that was a big blessing. But I was building it like a business. I wasn't thinking creative side of the brain at all. So did I have limiting beliefs about my talent? No, I still don't. I'm like, hey, people listen, great. That's your problem. No. But would I say that I had limiting beliefs about like what like the possibility was for the overall industry? That I didn't quite know because everybody around me that was at least in my circle at the time, they weren't content creators. So they're all finance people. So my VC buddies are all my buddies that were, managing funds and money. We're used to dealing with, millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions of dollars. So now you go from that to like a podcast with like, equivalent to change when you think about that kind of money, it becomes like, well, why am I doing this? Like, is this like a thing or is this like so that part of it, I will say, like the business side of it, I was like, is this a thing?
Mm.
Took some time to learn that piece of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, it's just so fascinating. So I think I read somewhere that you've done sort of 6,000 or more interviews.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
over 6,000. Kind of
okay?
crazy. Yeah, that's a lot. Do the math. That's
Yeah, no
nine
kidding.
years though, 9 years, but it's ramping up.
Okay, so what is that? My background is communications and journalism and all that good stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
you learn so much when you do deep dives
Yeah.
with people, with human beings, right? What has that taught you about yourself and this journey that you've been on as you've been amplifying voices for others?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely made me a better listener. It's made me, I mean, my girlfriend might not agree, but other than that, like it's made me a better listener. But as I go through that, one of the other commonalities that I've kind of seen across all of these is that we all have the need or the want to feel connected. like on some way, shape, or form. And on some level, whether somebody doesn't admit it or not, like by the function of them coming on a show is at whatever degree a function of that. And so I like to kind of say that that was my initial like real understanding. And then if we take it a step further, last year, unfortunately, my mother passed. And when she passed, and it was very sudden, it was from a tornado of all things in Florida, like the stuff you see on TV that never happens, literally a tornado. So what now that gave me another level of understanding and what that and the reason is because one of my most cherished things from her are those recordings. I brought her on the show like two or three times. And I have one that I'm still going to be releasing on the 1 year anniversary, and that'll be in like October. But when I think about like this concept of legacy, and that even right now, with you and I recording this episode, we become part of each other's legacy and part of this moment in time that we were on Earth. So now, as I have just a different level of understanding for that, and what that even means, I don't completely understand it. And I'm sure in time, God will reveal more to me and give me more understanding, I'm sure. But as of this point, I do know that that's definitely heavy, like on my heart, is that word legacy, and not for my own, by the way. So that part of it, I mean, just to be clear, if I was interested in just my own legacy, then all of the money that we spend on promoting others, we would just put in ads so everybody would know who Adam Torres was. Like, that's pretty easy. Like, it's not hard to buy, you know what I mean? Like, advertising to put your name out there so everybody knows who you are. But we choose to invest, myself and Shirag Sagar, he's the other co-founder here. We choose to invest in other things to amplify others' voices on our platforms. So even when you think about our book series that I told you, why did we create an anthology series? That's to tell other people's stories. It'd be more efficient and more cost effective to put out a book just with me and promote it and promote it and promote it if that was our goal. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to amplify stories that we feel need to be heard for others, that especially those that maybe have really good stories, but even though they may have money, success, they may have all these other things, most don't just understand how to do it or time, or even some don't understand why to do it. Some of the most successful people have imposter syndrome in sharing their stories or writing a book, which is kind of insane to me. But I've been doing this now 9 years, and I'm telling you, we had a billionaire that we published who's like, nobody wants to hear my story, and I'm like, dude, really? Like one of the most foremost, like influential people in education and direct to education, like in the world. Like he's one of the first. He was doing this like in classroom like thing, and it was of all things, it was in the agricultural space, and he was literally mailing VHSs to classrooms, thousands of classrooms. Insane. I'm like, yeah, people care about your story, buddy. I know you're humble, but trust me, I care. That's enough. Let's publish you.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. It just occurred to me too that your mission is so special because you're an amplifier, obviously, of so many voices because we're so used to people wanting to push their own narrative, right? And so
Yeah.
you find yourself in this really cool spot where you have the beautiful gift of being able to give the
Mhm.
stories of other people. So you're like an archivist of sorts, right?
That's
Like,
exactly how I think of it. It's
yeah,
interesting that you put that together because most don't. That's what I think of it. I'm a historian. That's what I
yeah.
think of it. Like the difference is I'm not going back into time. You're right, it is an archivist. That might be even more accurate to where it's real time. It's the people that are making history today. I
Yeah.
get to help document that real time. And my form just happens to
Mm.
be through voice and through podcast and through all of that. And so the other part of this, so since you got that, I'll give you another piece where I tend to come from is more of the broadcaster style. So if I'm thinking more of like the old school, like well before they were huge, but you think about like the early Johnny Carson or like David Letterman or things like this. Like they're more on some of the comedy side of it, but the way I like to think of it is the old broadcaster school where I'm not giving my opinion every 2 minutes, and it's
Mhm.
kind of counterintuitive to the current day influencer style of making of doing an interview or putting out content. No offense to anybody, by the way. I'm not judging anybody's content. It's just different.
Mhm.
It's like I'm not waiting for my turn to talk. Like I'm not waiting to make sure that I can get a opinion that's going to be good for real. Like some of my most I feel impactful moments are when I'm just silent thinking. That's different. That doesn't match necessarily what everybody's doing these days. So I take my cues, I think, from the old school broadcasters.
Yeah, no, I also come from that kind of line of thought as well, where it's okay to take a second to think, and it's usually better. Don't be afraid of silence.
Agree. Even if it's on the air, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows you're thinking.
It's okay. We're not
Yeah,
all AI.
no, I love that because also being in your position, when I asked about your own limiting beliefs, that was before I really truly understood and got a good pulse on what your heart's journey is. And so you probably actually see the limiting beliefs of others more. You're probably navigating those.
Mhm.
And so tell me what that's like for you when you're dealing with individuals who on the surface are just very, very successful, but you run into their own ego there, and not from the egotistical perspective.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm speaking of. I'm
Yeah.
speaking more to the fears of the human heart to share what's in here.
Mhm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. I think specifically in this profession, and you probably know this from your journalist days and even now in what you're doing, I think when you do this for long enough, your energy starts to change and people just are receptive to you in a different way.
Mm,
Like I can think about, and there's other professions like this, by the way, like psychiatrists, like therapists, like people that are used to listening for a living in different ways, to where their energy changes. So the tricky part is you do tend to take on some of other people's energy, so you can. So if you're talking to enough of those individuals in a row, that can be tricky. That can be really tricky. I guess the beauty of where I'm at as of nowadays is normally I get to talk to people that are pretty excited about whatever they're working on. So I can say in the early days it was tough. In the early days it was tough because you'd be, especially when you're dealing with different markets. So you can think about like when I was in finance, the tech wreck of 2008, I was managing money then. I'm 2002. I'm not that old, so I was in college. But before then, I was on the in when I was in high school, I was already working in that field. So I got to see the run up that led to 2002 and the tech wreck. So those were different types of energies. But now, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to mostly take on good energy most of the time. But then what's also fun is just being able to have different types of conversations because when somebody, I don't know, I can't explain it exactly, but I'll give you an example. Maybe this will help. When somebody that's very tenured or whenever that has done a lot in their life, when they recognize you and you're having that conversation, sometimes they'll give you something different than they gave somebody else. And that's always fun. So one particular one that just cracks me up to this day is, I don't know if they had this where you were from, but Mrs. Fields cookies. Do you remember that one, like in the malls, like Mrs.
yes,
Fields
I do.
cookies? Okay, so this is one of my like ruining my don't you're not supposed to meet your heroes, right? I loved Mrs. Fields cookies when I was a kid. So Mr. Fields came on the show, and so her husband I don't know if they're at what the exact history was, but let's just say Mr. Fields. So helped build the company, everything else. It was the husband end of things. And come to find out that that company was actually a tech company, and that was one of the first tech companies like ever. And so, just for some context, let's say that, and I might be off on the numbers here, so somebody's welcome to call me out on me being off. But let's say there were 2,000 different locations at one point across the nation and different malls or wherever they were at every single cookie that was across all those locations were tracked to the point to where there was never a cookie that was out there for longer than, let's call it, 5 to 10 minutes, whatever their metric was. And that's why whenever you walk by it, you could always smell them. That was by design. It was a tech company. And so when they sold it, they didn't the person that bought it or the company that bought it for that technology, not for the cookies. This was the first, they were doing this with microchips or something because there was no internet. This is like the 70s or whatever, whenever it came out. So this is pre-internet, pre anything we can even think of. It's one of the first tech companies. And so what threw me off about him though is I asked him, I like that, as entrepreneurs, like, what would you tell the next group of entrepreneurs? And he's like, well, I think you have to be addicted to pain. He says something like that. You got to be able to take pain. You got to almost be like a masochist. Like he literally is saying these things and talking about pain. And I'm like, dude, you're the Mr. Fields like cookie person. You're not supposed to. He's like, well, I got to tell your audience straight, Adam. I got to like, entrepreneurship is hard. It's not for everybody. I'm like, man, come on. Like, you just ruined it for me.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
like, you don't expect him to say that. I'm like, all right, fine. All right, let me take a pause. Next question.
Yeah, the cookie man just ruined my dreams. Yeah.
I know, there you go. So I mean, so that's kind of like the privilege of the chair, I feel like, and
Yeah.
that's what it's like. So you got some good moments like that, and then other moments, there's some serious things too.
Yeah, for sure. Do you so who is your target audience, I guess? Like who is
Yeah.
coming to you to get them to ask your help in telling their stories?
Well, at this point, I mean, I host 9 different shows. They're all different niches. So everything from business to marketing to tech to, and then we also have other series that are coming out. So right now I'm working on a series for, now this year, I mean, as we continue to grow, it's getting a little bit more interesting. Now we're tackling things like I have a new series coming out called Africa Forward, and
Mhm.
that's where we'll be going to Africa, doing a bunch of interviews and doing a different series, talking to different banks and different people there. We're planning on launching one as well in Saudi, so to talk about and cover some of the 2030 series, that and create an entire 2030 series of interviews. So it keeps on growing, and then there's also producers and people pitching in New York. I have one that's pitching a show concept or two, and just some other ones. So, in terms of target audience, as of this point. The only thing that I don't really cover off because that's not just authentic to me is we do some stuff in sports but it's more so like the story of the athlete and the things behind them. Like for example, I just had Meta World Peace on the show, and for LA that's a big deal, right? Laker champion, and we were talking about his transition from the league to advocacy. So he's NBA champion, right? So that's the kind. But if you were to, I couldn't really do like okay, so what happened in the game yesterday and how does that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know sports like that. Like, invite me and I'll come. I'll come to your suite and I'll eat your food and drink your beverages, but I won't know how to report on that. So that's not me. But other than that, the rest of my cover, like all good.
Okay. Okay. No, it's interesting. I ask because so my audience is spiritual entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
individuals that are really engaged with their personal healing and sovereignty,
Yeah.
especially, right? And so, um, but your knowledge is very, very expansive and it
Hmm.
spans, I think it spans and can be applied to any industry, that kind
Hmm.
of thing. So, what would be your best piece of advice then for individuals, healers that are in spiritual entrepreneurship? How could they
Hmm.
take your principles and apply them to their businesses in order to help them grow?
Well, I do quite a bit of work in that space, and so for example, I don't know if your audience or yourself, Conscious Life Expo is a pretty big. It's a big
Okay.
expo in LA for exactly what you're talking about, spiritual healing and many different things. And so I've actually interviewed over the course of my career hundreds of individuals that are in that particular space and niche, and that do have that calling, that thing in them that makes them want to help and heal others. And what I found in that particular space, kind of interesting, is that they all have their own version of the story and what called them to that, and what called them to it originally. But one thing that I find that is I struggle with this in the beginning as well, but it's just in crafting the story and with being okay to say the same story over and over and over and over again. And this is a little tricky because like we all want to be creative, we all want to do these other things, but I'm like I love telling my story and I'm like if I say it enough times, you think about the greats in this world that have said their story over and over again, then we all remember them. Oprah, Les Brown, like Jim Rome, you go back far enough, like Tony Robbins, like whoever your person is that you like or follow, they say the same thing for 30, 40 years. And we all know their names. And so I feel like for some of the individuals I've met, like the entrepreneurs in this space, it's about craft. It's not completely different than others, but I find that the story many times can change a little
Mhm.
bit different on there. And also maybe depending on the person, like it depends on if it, and this is respectful, so I'm not saying somebody has to go in there, but let's say that they were brought to their calling because they experienced a bit of trauma and
Mhm.
a specific type of trauma that they don't want to talk about yet. And that's fine. It's okay. You lean into it and you use and talk about it as you can. But in my opinion, the closer somebody gets to authenticity over time, they're going to see their results change in their business. And I'm not going to speak from the healing side. If they're going to be better healers, I won't, that would be overstepping my knowledge. But I mean, in terms of, and definitely don't want to comment on somebody's journey like that, but it's going to allow other people to feel like they can share too. And that in my opinion, that reciprocal nature creates a different energy, and that allows for more to happen. And then what it also, so that's, let's just say that somebody is okay and they're like, all right, I got that piece. Let's just call that's the first piece in my opinion. I got that. Okay, Adam, what else? The next piece would be, does your marketing or the way that you're actually putting yourself out there align with that first piece?
Mm.
And
Yes.
you got to be real honest on that second piece, because you may say it does, but if you have a particular goal that's not being met, it's possible that they're not actually aligned yet. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean you can't get closer or better, but if they're both aligned, then in theory, I'm not saying this for everybody, right? But in theory, you should be closer to whatever your particular goal is. And I don't mean it could be quantity of clients, it could be sales, it could be non-business related, it could be something completely different that I haven't thought of. So I'm not trying to like transmute my goals on you. I just mean like if you're not hitting them, those are the two things. Like, are your story, are you telling it as authentically as you can? Then on the marketing side, are you telling it through the right channels for whatever expected outcome you'd like?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. When there's that dissonance present, yeah, you can feel it, right?
Yeah,
As a creator and a consumer, I guess, of content, you
it's
can feel it.
weird, isn't it? I can't explain that. I don't know why, but it's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
the
true. And I
energy.
could tell even like the first books and even our first company, like the first version of this was called Money Matters. And then when we changed the name of it to Mission Matters and leaned more into what like we were actually into and we were about, myself and
Yeah,
the other co-founder, we started with Money Matters because I was just managing money and it was just common sense. There's alliteration and it has the word money in it. Great, right? Like I mean, I'm not saying we put thought into it, but it was just marketing. But did it match the first part, which is my story and what actually mattered? Like what did I enjoy about money or helping people? It was the families I got to help. It was the
right.
security I got to give them. It wasn't just the ones and the zeros, so to speak.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because that kind of illustrates your own journey then going from the money matters to
Hmm.
showcasing the mission of others while
Yeah,
also fulfilling your own mission. Yeah, that's really
that's
meaningful.
and that's authentic. That's the way it was. And so that's my particular story. So everybody that's listening has their particular story. And when you just piece it together at whatever point you feel appropriate, then when people hear it, they'll be moved because it's true, but it's also unique.
Yeah.
Everybody's unique.
Yeah. Everybody's unique. That's actually a really good segue to sort of my next question, which was about how entrepreneurs, individuals can stand out nowadays,
Mm,
right? Because the social media and podcasts, they're very, very saturated. I don't know how many podcasts there are in the world, but
mm,
it's a lot. So, from your perspective, Adam, how can people do that? How can we stand out in a
mm.
saturated market?
Yeah. I like when people ask me this, and not because I want to be a know-it-all. I'll warn you on that one. I just don't agree with the premise of the question.
Okay.
So, and I'll give you the numbers why. So, and you won't agree either once I tell you this. You're gonna be like, "What? Are you serious, Adam? Oh my gosh, you were so right. You changed my whole life." Okay, you ready? Everybody
I'm ready.
listening,
Go.
take some notes. Take some notes. Call me on this, whoever wants to. Um, YouTube has over 150 million channels, right? Podcast has less than 4 million. Podcast is such blue ocean. We're like in year one of YouTube. Now, why? Why is this, Adam? Oh, I'm glad you asked, Chelsea. So the reason is because podcasting grew out of the old school radio. So what happens is in radio, you were able to monetize only by, host read ads. So you're talking. Well, with podcasts, who's going to buy advertising from a small show and have a host read an ad? Nobody, right? So in the past, you could really only monetize larger shows for the most part. So what that means is smaller creators were kind of thrown out of the ecosystem. Whereas YouTube in the beginning, you could monetize a small channel and even pennies coming in. Pennies coming in rewards creators not just in the United States, but around the world. So with podcasts, you can now have dynamic advertising. So what that means is small creators can even start getting pennies. So what this means is, I don't know if it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. There's going to be over 100 million podcasts. And when we look back at this episode, you're going to be like, wow, when I had that conversation with Adam, there were only 4 million. It
Mm,
was the market saturated. It's not even begun. We're in year
mm,
one of YouTube and people don't understand it. And let me give you another stat. There's only, when we get into active podcasts, um, any given week, and for anybody that wants to call me on this, where it's July 7th, 2025, just so you know when I'm giving you this stat. Last week, there were only like 200 and something, I think it was like 200, not even 190,000 episodes published.
mm.
Think about that.
Wow.
It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. People are starving for this content. It's absolutely nothing. Nobody's even started a podcast in the history of the world. It doesn't even matter. Anything that we've done up to this point doesn't even count.
Mm,
So, to answer your question, everybody should be starting a podcast right now. If you could answer the question and say, "Hey, if you knew YouTube was going to have 150 million plus channels in whatever 20 years or however long it took 30 years to build, would you be starting a YouTube channel and like putting out a episode a week?" Yeah.
yeah.
Even if it was bad, yeah. You'd be like, "Oh my
Wow.
gosh, I'm on the front end of something that is huge." And for the first time, for some people that are listening to this, for the first time in your life, you got inside information. You know exactly what's going to happen. You can predict the future with certainty. And if I'm wrong, by the way, okay, there's not 150 million, there's 50 million. Still, it's a 10x of where we're at more. So when you
Wow.
think about that, and then let's talk about the distribution onto the 2G phones and the 3G phones, when we think about in places like Africa or other places that aren't using 5G or what we're using, that don't even use Spotify and Apple, that use other things and have other, think about distribution there. So you're talking another, what, 400 million phones?
Yeah.
So when you think about that and when you think about advertising demand, then you look at the numbers of advertisements and the advertising dollars that are moving from other channels to podcasting. And the reason is because podcast listeners are pretty, I think there's two reasons. One would be podcast listeners are pretty loyal. Like when you find your podcast, you're probably going to listen to it. Like if they put out an episode every week, you're probably going to listen to it, number one.
Hmm.
So the attrition is like, it's good, number one. But then number two, I think it's a little bit harder to game the numbers on certain platforms for podcasts. Like, think about what it takes to register a download for Apple. You got to have a phone number. You got to have an email. You got to have a, now compare that to maybe Instagram where, you can have a bot or whatever else, like whatever they're doing, right? Like, it's just harder. Now, is there some fake numbers out there? Probably, but it's not the same. So when you add all those things together, it's like I just don't even agree with the premise of the question. Like, so first thing you do is you start a podcast if you want to stand out, and then the second thing you do, you stay consistent. You gotta put out an episode a week. If you ain't been putting out an episode a week, I'm sorry. Like, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Like those are the two big ones, and then here, just a little bit more data for you, and this isn't my words, this is just the way it's tracked in the past. Podcasts usually have like a hockey stick growth curve. So what happens is they stay small, 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 small. They grow a little, grow a little, grow a little. And then at some point, whatever that is, different podcasts blow up at different points in a good way. I mean, they just take off. And you hear the big podcasts, they all say the same thing. They're all like, and then just one day the numbers were out of the roof and this. And it's like, what year was that? Those are different years for different people. But like this is where you want to invest your time, in my opinion, as of this moment, because those listeners will be loyal. They're going to spend more time with you. They're going to listen to full 30-minute episodes versus millisecond click on Instagram. That's fine. I'm not against Instagram. We have Instagram. Ask Adam Torres, my shameless plug. There you go. I'll sneak that one in, Chelsea. I have
I
no
love it.
shame on that
No,
one.
good.
Ask Adam Torres, all good. But where you invest your time, you're in the right place. Podcast. That's how you're going to stick out. It's not saturated. We haven't even begun podcasting yet.
Wow, thank you. That did blow my mind, in the best possible way because it's funny. Like I said, I come from, a communications background as
Yeah.
well. And so when I think about getting content out there, I still don't think podcast. I think in terms of social media, and social media is saturated as hell. I think we can
Hmm.
agree. And I question the integrity of many of the large platforms out there.
Yeah.
But podcasting is really cool because it's very sovereign, right? And
Hmm.
so what you're saying right now, I think is just
Hmm.
so amazing and valuable for listeners.
I want to give you one little thing that you mentioned there that is
Sure.
that I did not mention, but it's a great point. Is that you're in control of your subscribers. So with Instagram, with Facebook, I've built social media. I made them money across the board, let's say. So Facebook, I rode that wave and I built a big like groups, right? Big groups. And then what happened? Then Facebook turned the switch and now you got to pay to advertise to your own people that you brought in the groups, right? All these other things. So the organic reach, nothing. LinkedIn, they're all the same. And it's okay.
Hmm.
Like they are letting us use their platform for free. They have to
Yeah.
make money. I'm not mad. It's okay.
Hmm.
But well, I'm a little mad, but not but
It's
not too
okay.
mad. But with podcasts, and I have this conversation all the time, it's like, okay, Instagram, maybe you're gonna get, and somebody can call me out on this, but I'm not too off, 10% of reach on your audience. So if you got 1,000 followers, maybe 100 if you're lucky are gonna see your post if you're lucky,
Yeah.
right? So that being said, if you got 1,000 subscribers, like, and you release an episode, guess who's going to get a push notification? Everybody that subscribed, that whole 1,000. Now, if they listen to it or not, okay, that's sometimes yes, sometimes no, but at least you got to reach everybody, and the algorithm didn't dictate who gets to know that you released an episode. And that's a big deal. So now, if you copy that piece, and now if you launch a newsletter with it, now you're talking IP, now you're talking ownership, now you're talking complete control of your audience, which is what you want ultimately.
Wow. You have really, really shifted my perspective on I already
I'm not
love.
about building their platforms. They got enough money. I want to help people get their stories out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much because I've been a proponent for a long time of again, trying to get beyond the algorithm because you just don't have
Nope,
control. They're black box. You have no control over
I'm
them.
not.
Yeah,
Play
so
your
that's
own game. It doesn't even matter. Think about it this way. I like to tell people I have a show right now that we launched. It's called, she's a brilliant host. Her name is Anna Yu. It starts with you. And we're right now, we're literally launching a newsletter for her. And one of the
okay.
conversations I have with her is she has a lot of followers on Instagram and all these other things. And I'm like, great, don't stop doing that. But I used to play this game when I was just getting started. And I think she has like maybe 10, 12 episodes out. So I would consider that her just getting started on this part. She's done other stuff in media, but on this part, she's just getting started. So I used to play this game. Like, let's say that you were going to Facebook and you were doing advertising to grow your email list. And let's say that they were actually giving you a good email, not some, whatever. Let's say it's somebody that you would actually be in your circle of people. You're probably looking at $5 at least, maybe $5 to $10, depending on how high level your circle of people is, even if you could even get that email, let's say. So when I used to in the early days go to a networking event or something else, which I would consider that my peers, because by definition, they're at an event with me, right? So we're obviously crossing paths. If I got 10 business cards, that was $100. I'm putting those 10 on my list and it just changes your perspective. So now you get 100 business cards, that's $1,000. So now, how do you look at those business cards? It's different. You should now. What I find interesting though is many people are willing to spend that grand and give it to Facebook for some BS emails because it's easy, right? It's
Hmm.
easy to just pay and be like, okay, Facebook, thank you, and then it's easy to complain. But
Yep.
on the other side of things, like this poker chip I'm holding up right here, I've given out thousands of them. Thousands on thousands. There's a QR code on the back. I get emails. These poker chips are all around the world. And for the people that aren't watching the video, that are listening to this in their car and that are annoyed because I keep holding things up and referencing them, and you're like, "What is Adam talking about?" I'm holding a poker chip up that
Mhm.
has my head on it, and it also has a QR code on the back so that it drives traffic. So that's just giving you some context. So now my audience base, I want to start where I'm at and I want those to build. And that's how you do it, by shaking hands, looking people in the eye, telling them and having conversations about why you do what you do and what's interesting about it. People want that one-on-one human connection. If you get one subscriber that listens to, let's say you put out 10 episodes a year, let's just make the math easy. And let's just say that those 10 episodes are 30 minutes each. Somebody just gave you 300 minutes of their life. That's the way you got to think of it. 300 minutes of their life were spent with you. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's one subscriber. So when you start thinking about it that way, that's the life energy they're giving you. So it's a different level of respect. And if you put that towards any other social media, somebody clicks on your Facebook, they like it, great. Okay, so that same one subscriber gave you a millisecond.
Wow. Yeah, when you put it into that perspective, it's why doesn't everyone have a podcast?
Well, I didn't set you up for this, but now that I'm done, this is a good shift. No, because we sell podcasting services, and
Yes.
we that wasn't my point though. Seriously, for everybody listening, no, we have launched over 250 shows, but we weren't even in that business, just to be clear. During the
Right.
pandemic, what happened, just to backstep briefly, so people don't think, oh, everything he just said's out the window. It's not. Like during the pandemic, I cover a lot of different conferences. There's a big heavy travel schedule. I get paid to go podcast in person and to cover events and do the distribution.
Mhm.
So some people are speakers. I'm a professional host. So I'm just so people understand what I'm talking about. So during the pandemic, obviously all the conferences are closed, everything's going, you can't travel. So I was interviewing people and they're like, hey, I want to launch a podcast. I want to launch a podcast. And at first we said no. And then we were like, well, we got bench time. Our editors, everything else, like I'm not putting out as much, like I'm not traveling as much. So we have bench time. So then we started launching shows for people during the pandemic and then hence over 250 shows launched. But that was just another piece of it was aligned with what we're trying to do, which is help others tell their story. So it was mission
Right.
aligned. It was aligned with our capability, and we were already not complaining about any other or comparing to any other podcasting company, but we were already, let's just say, doing pretty well competition wise.
Okay. Okay. So what do you do for people then who come to you and they're like, "Hey Adam, I really want to start a podcast. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
What do you do for them?
So, our podcast agency is run by his name is Matt Cook, and a dear friend of mine. We've known each other actually since our 20s, which is kind of interesting. And then he's the one who gave me my first podcast mic. So it still kind of feels like a family company, I like to say. And he introduced me to podcasting way before I even knew what it was and told me I need to start one. And just like my book, I was like, I don't want to do a book. I don't want to do a podcast. Podcasts are stupid. So same thing. It's okay. So if you're over out listening to this and you think the same thing, don't worry. I was where you were at. It's okay. It was dumb until I understood that I was the one that was a little naive there. So
Oh, that's amazing.
it's a whole creative team. I mean, we've launched more shows than, I mean, iHeartRadio. I mean, they have over 4,000 employees, so we're not them, but we're pushing 35 and we put out a lot of content and I like, and our niche is going to be more, business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, like that's more so our niche, for the most part. So that's our sweet spot. And missionmatters.com. I mean, that's the actual media page where people can look. They can see all the different like shows that we have out there and that we distribute. And so we do everything from show concept to creative to editing to distribution, everything. Like all of our podcasters really don't have time to do podcasts, is what it comes
Mm,
down to. Like
mhm.
they don't. They run companies, they're CEOs, they're executives. They know they need to do stuff and they want to, but they just need to have it, pretty seamless for them and turnkey. They're not going to be able to spend more than 3 to 4 hours a month on the show, probably. And they want everything to just be handled, whether it's social media, recording, like show up, we push the buttons on the back end, and just make it happen.
Okay. Um, and what are some tips and tricks that you have to share for people who are listening to this and they're in that spiritual entrepreneurship, that niche, and they're like, yeah, maybe, wow, this sounds amazing. I want to put some eggs in this basket and start a
Yeah.
podcast. What are some tips and tricks you have for them?
Yeah. Well, I think first thing first is I think definitely start looking at other shows that you may like and seeing what you can emulate there. And I want to get this name of the show right because it's funny and you're gonna laugh because you're probably not expecting this, but it's good. I just want to make sure I say it right though. Speaking of silence, good. So we do. So Dr. Samuel Lee has a great show that's actually on the website, and that's one that I would recommend like people listen to and just get a look at it with, because his first of all, it's called the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast.
Okay.
So that's the name of the show. So the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. And we've been producing and distributing this show for a long time. So if you follow or look up Dr. Samuel Lee, you'll see the social media we do. You'll see all the other things. And the reason I'm doing this is not just a shameless plug for him, which I do believe he deserves one. But it's not just for that. It's more so because I want you to look at the way that his brand was developed.
Mm.
So like all of the brand, everything from the podcast cover to his social media to the editing, all of that, like not everybody's going to be able to do that day one, just throwing that out there. And if you can't, I don't want you to feel intimidated by that. It's okay. Everybody starts in different places. So maybe your platform isn't as big as his or you don't want to make those type of investments yet. That's okay. You start somewhere, but you should if you're thinking about long term what to aspire to, he's got a big community, a big following, a big show, and that was over. And if you follow him and kind of like he leaves clues all the time on the production, on the way he's doing different things. He's not doing those because they don't work. He's doing them because he has a big team behind him and they do work. And that's why you see consistent results, whether it's the distribution, whether it's the social media followers, whether it's the episodes he's putting out, like all of those. But let's just say that's a place to aspire to. That's the end game. For some people that are listening, they want to be there. They have the resources. They can get there faster. Possibly if they have the right content. You can't just throw money at it. So I'm not saying that. If you have the right content, maybe you can get there a little faster. But taking a step back for those that are maybe earlier on the journey, the first thing I would say is think back about the story that I shared. My very first like 300 episodes weren't even edited. So like don't worry. Like just you got to get in the game. You can't win it if you're not in the game. First off, most people that were listening probably thought podcasting was like saturated. So if that's where you started with that thought process, now you have to take some of your own, not medicine, but if you're coaching other people and letting them know to be open-minded and open to new ideas and new ways of thought, be open to maybe what you just heard. That podcasting is not saturated, it's not even started yet, really. It doesn't even matter yet. All the numbers and everything you've been told, everybody that has ever commented to you is wrong. Just period. The numbers don't lie. That's fact. You can look those up. I didn't make those up. So if all of that's wrong, then maybe just dip your toe in the water, get some episodes out there, and don't worry, the water's fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've never been happier to be wrong about anything because I definitely I definitely thought that. And you're
Yeah.
right. It's because we get fed information all the time about, well, this is really dismal and blah blah blah. And you tend to kind of,
Mm-mm.
you know, receive that energy and you
Yeah.
kind of download it. And yeah, so that's really, really
Yeah.
refreshing. And I'm sure extremely good news for people,
Yeah. I
especially
think it
listeners.
is. Let me
Yeah.
throw you another one. So let me throw you a dreaming piece of good news. So
Okay.
let's say that somebody does remain consistent with even just their one episode per week. If you think about it, so what I'm doing, I don't recommend to other people. Thousands of episodes a year. I'm just wired slightly differently. That doesn't necessarily even make sense business wise, unless you have an exact business like mine, which I don't recommend. It's okay. It's very time consuming. But let's just say that you're even doing your one episode per week, and let's say that you're thinking in terms of decades. Don't think in terms of the next year. Let's say you're thinking in terms of decades. Some people are going to literally build generational wealth, but the interesting part isn't just the amount of money. The interesting part is the workload doesn't increase.
Mm,
You're going to put it, if
mm,
you want to put out one episode per week for the next 30 years, it's how much more time are you going to spend on that episode? You're not.
yeah.
And you're going to get better over time. So it might even take you less time over time. So think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And you
Wow.
own it. And you own it. Like there'll be people that will hand their show down to their kids. Unlike the old school days where let's just say you were retired off the network. Go far enough back, like Bob Hope. He's going out there like back in the day. People are like, "Who is that?" It's not just who the airport was named after in L.A. or Burbank. It's an old entertainer. Like he's drug him off the stage. He couldn't see or hear anymore, and that was his life. But for us, it's just a different day and age. I want to be a centenarian podcaster. Why? Because at what point would I not want to have at least one conversation with somebody? especially when you have, as your platform gets bigger, you might bring on some co-hosts. Your kids might be some co-hosts or whatever. Somebody has kids or whatever. I mean, it's just a whole different way and framework. It really is whatever you decide to make it.
Wow. It's funny. I already liked the medium. I've just drawn to it. I loved
Hmm.
my broadcasting, journalism schooling experience.
Hmm.
But now, again, you've really, really shifted the whole perspective about what it means to have a podcast beyond just the getting your message out there and
Yeah.
branding and all that stuff. It really strikes me that it is very, very much a sovereign medium,
Hmm.
one that will keep paying you
Hmm.
in so many different ways that you probably can't even imagine, right? Because like just connecting with people is, rippling out. You just have no idea where
Yeah.
that's gonna go. For me, that's been my favorite part so far, and I'm still new in my journey, kind
Mhm.
of thing. And so, thank you so much for that. Really, really beautiful perspective, and I really hope that people listening are going to gain the courage to at least give it a try.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
I love it. Mhm.
thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't really touched on or that we didn't go that maybe you'd
Yeah.
like to leave listeners with?
Yeah. If you happen to like this, I would say, and if you have a show idea, book idea, stuff like that, like just shoot me a message. Instagram, ask Adam Torres. There's a link there as well on the link there, and it has a link tree which has we give out more free content, how to start a podcast, ebooks, writing books, newsletters, whatever you want. If you just click on that, I don't even know what my team has up there right now, but I know we give out, I believe, more free content and more free things than any other company on the planet of our size, like period. So I just say visit me at Ask Adam Torres on Instagram.
Okay, wonderful. I'll make sure that all of this is in the show notes as well, so people can get in touch with you. Adam, thank you so much. It's been enlightening, it's been entertaining, and such a joy to talk with you today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun and I look forward to hearing this be released. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for being here. If something's stirred within you today, that's not an accident. It's a shift. To go deeper, visit thesovereignshift.ca, where you'll find breathwork audios, resources, mini courses, workshops, and programs to support your reclamation, body, mind, and soul. Like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and toss us a follow on social media if you're so inclined. And remember, your breath is your power. Your truth is your compass. Your sovereignty is the revolution. Until next time, stay sovereign.